What's a problem humanity solves so well that younger people don't even realize it used to be a huge issue? The hole in the ozone layer. One of our biggest, and only, global environmental success stories. And leaded petrol. And asbestos in most countries. Turns out we can do stuff when we want to. Thing about lead though is that even the fucking Romans knew it was toxic. We put it in gasoline because it was a cheap way to prevent engine knocking during a time minimal regulations. We knew it was horrible and did it anyway 'cause money. We shouldn't get credit for solving a problem we knowingly started. Though, as an American I sure am glad we took things like that to heart and learned our lesson. It wasn't originally understood that tiny doses of lead would cause developing fetuses to have brain abnormalities. For many toxins, you can be exposed to sublethal doses repeatedly with no harm. You can take 5% of the lethal dose of cyanide every day and live to 100. Lead builds to in the he body and small amounts do subtle damage. The people who sold tetraethyl lead knew it was killing factory workers and hid the facts. They are not blameless. But the authoritative opinion of professional toxicologists with PhDs was that a little bit of lead exposure was fine. And those tiny lead-poisoned brained fetuses are now all grown up and running the country. Polio. Parents used to not let their kids go to public pools because of it. I used to work in a care home and looked after a lady who worked with children impacted by polio. Many of them died, many left severely disabled. As cruel as dementia is, one beautiful joy was informing her almost daily that polio was now vaccinated against and almost eradicated. Her face every time was a pleasure to see. That's so strangely wholesome. Don't get me wrong, dementia is so very cruel. But it's not devoid of joy. There are loads of people who are happy, if not in this reality. It's impossibly hard for their families to see who they know slip away, but for us looking after them who aren't experiencing the same grief, they're great people to be around and we enjoy each other's company, have fun, have a laugh, have a nice day together. It is astounding that I can hop into a hot shower. I just turn a handle and there I am, safe and sound and warm. Only 2 to 3 generations old. So recent it's something like 0.03% of human history. Thank God I lived during this time. I am weak and pampered and I know it. I grew up fairly poor and rural. We'd usually lose access to our well in the coldest posts of winter, which meant no bathing, limited flushing, etc., for a few weeks at a time. You better believe I love hot showers. I think I could live okay without electricity, but not showers. Another well water survivor here. Ours wasn't that bad, it was fed by an aquifer. My mom would always fill the bathtub with water before a storm so we could scoop it into the toilet tank to flush in case we lost power. Very thankful for her foresight quite a few times. In the summer we would bathe in the lake behind our house if outages lasted a few days in the summer. If they happened in the winter we would go to someone's house that had power. I don't remember what we did when we were snowed in 1993. Our water heater tank was small so hot showers were short. I remember standing in hot showers for 45 minutes when I went to college just because I could. My grandfather used to talk about this. How when he first got access to a hot shower, he simply could not believe. It was the most wonderful thing he could conceive of. Clean water. I was thinking about this the other day while dealing with a stomach bug. After a couple miserable days, I'm fine now, but 100 years ago, my cure, staying hydrated, would have likely made me even more sick if it hadn't also been the reason for my illness in the first place. I remember reading somewhere about the construction of the first continental railroad in the USA. Apparently one of the reasons so many Chinese workers were hired was because they boiled much of their drinking water for tea, so they were significantly less prone to stomach bugs than immigrants from European countries. During the Broad Street pump cholera outbreak, which essentially led to the creation of modern epidemiology, it was found that all of the people using a specific water well were affected, except for a monastery that only used the water for washing and almost exclusively drank beer. The story of the investigation by Dr. John Snow was amazing. People used to believe that the act of smelling something awful caused disease, which resulted in piles of garbage flushed into the water supply. But by proving cholera was spread through the same well, it led to a system to clean water across London. Getting online maps and directions. Oh man, I don't have memories before the internet, but I do remember having to print out directions for my mom to get somewhere.
Eek!
You used to have to go physically to the office and get paper maps, then take them home and use a highlighter to plot your course. If you drove a lot, you paid for the Thomas Guide maps and kept them in your car. I remember when this switched to CDs with mapping software and data, and that was amazing. You could see it all on screen, with estimated travel times and everything. Now our maps pop up automatically on the magic car screen when we start the car and inform us of traffic delays and speed traps. Y'all younguns don't know how good you have it. Or you grabbed a Rand McNally from the gas station and taught your 6-year-old how to read a map and follow road signs. Mom would periodically tell me her mile marker and ask where it was. Then have me do the math to find how many miles to go till we got to the next big city. It's pretty great never really feeling lost on the interstate. Still use GPS around town though. IDK how anyone managed that before GPS. We bought maps of each town or had a spiral-bound notebook of all the towns in the county. I had a thick map book that had each state in it with major roads, not just highways, and a lot of times you'd call and ask for directions, and they'd tell you based on a major road or highway exit. You could also go to the library and they'd have maps from all over. You'd go ahead and write down your directions. The library also had all the phone books. That plus travel brochures is how you'd plan a vacation. People don't realize that fresh produce year-round is a very recent creation. Heck, people used to rent pineapples. I'm only in my 30s and I remember most fruits being seasonal. I'm in my 40s. In my 20s I worked in produce, and we would field questions all the time about when do the X, Y, Z come in. Oranges were a big one, strawberries too. I think bananas and red delicious awful apples were the only fruit that were year-round. And even then, a lot of the year they were not good. Super green bananas that never really ripened, and mealy tasteless apples. Which is pretty on par with red delicious, or maybe I just never ate one in season. Anything solved by vaccines? Victims of their own effectiveness, people forget how nightmarish infectious diseases used to be. I don't get vaccines because it weakens my immune system. Kid, we tried that before. They really don't understand that 1/3 to 1/2 of your kids would not make it past 5 years old only 100 years ago. It was brutal. My favorite stat is that at the dawn of human civilization roughly half of all people were dead before age 30. At the dawn of the Industrial Revolution that had risen to roughly 35. All development up to that point gained us 5 years. Today, that number is up to roughly 79. In the 150-ish years since the Industrial Revolution we have done more to advance human survival than in the 15,000 years before it. My mind is still blown that there's a chickenpox vaccine. I remember my parents made my sister breathe on me when she had it so I could catch it and get it out of the way. I have an uncle who had polio. He was lucky in that it didn't affect him badly as a child, and when I was a kid he was the most active guy I knew. On a sports team for every sport, ran and biked daily, because he was told from the time he was 3 that he probably wouldn't be able to walk someday. He declined quickly, and was in a wheelchair occasionally by 35, and pretty much permanently by 40. Watching that kind of active man decline that quickly because he was born a few years before the vaccine, and exposed to the virus in his first few years of life will definitely make a person think about how much vaccines have changed the world. Vaccines are miracles that so many people are idiots about. Refrigeration and laundry. 2 inventions that have completely changed our lives, yet mostly everyone nowadays takes them for granted.
Yeah.
People talk about how they want a robot to do laundry for them without realizing the job's been 90% automated away already.
Yeah.
My dad used to scare me off the campfire by relating how his sister burned her skirt and herself so bad she died. What was she doing so close to the fire then? Washing clothes by the creek, of course. Took me a few years to realize why you'd have to build a fire to wash clothes. Iodine deficiency. People need iodine to be healthy, but didn't get enough until we started adding it to table salt. Agree. Other fortification efforts of food, adding iron to bread products and niacin to flour, both helped with deficiency-based illnesses. Also, folate in breakfast cereals has helped decrease spina bifida in infants.